You wake up every day, look in the mirror, and see exactly what Machiavelli most despised: a person who chose mediocrity out of fear of bothering others. Yes, that's exactly what you heard. While you're there worried about being liked by everyone, your life is slipping through your fingers like sand. Niccolo Machiavelli, the man who dared to speak truths that society prefers to hide, would look at your current existence and ask a devastating question: why did you choose to be a ghost of your own life? Because that's exactly what you became when you decided that being nice was more important than being respected. Machiavelli lived in an era where survival depended on courageous decisions, where hesitation meant death, where only the strong prospered. And what would he say about you, who has all the opportunities of the modern world, but chooses to waste them because you're afraid someone might not like your opinion? He would say you're a coward disguised as a civilized person. Let's start with the basics. Do you think that by being nice to everyone, agreeing with everything, and never taking a firm position, you'll earn people's respect? What a pathetic illusion. People don't respect those who have no backbone. They use, discard, and forget. Machiavelli knew this 500 years ago, and you still haven't learned. The naked truth is that while you're worried about not hurting anyone's feelings, others are making the decisions that should be yours. While you hesitate, others act. While you apologize for existing, others are building empires on your hesitations. Machiavelli wrote that it's better to be feared than loved, if you have to choose one of the two. Not because he was evil, but because he understood human nature in a way you refuse to accept. People respect strength, determination, character. They don't respect human doormats who say yes to everything. And here's a truth that will hurt. You're not nice out of virtue. You're nice out of cowardice. There's a gigantic difference between genuine kindness and the desperate need for approval that you confuse with virtue. The truly good man has the courage to be firm when necessary, has the strength to say no when he needs to, has the determination to defend his principles even when it costs dearly. You have none of that. You're just a coward who found a socially acceptable excuse for your lack of courage. Oh, but I'm a good person, you say to yourself, while allowing them to step on you for the 1,000th time. I don't want to hurt anyone, you whisper while betraying your own dreams to keep the peace. What a pathetic lie you tell yourself. You want to know what your biggest problem is? You believe the world will automatically reward your kindness. How pathetic. The world owes you nothing. The world doesn't care if you're nice. The world only cares about results, about value, about what you can offer. And a person who can't even defend their own convictions offers nothing of value. When was the last time you said no to something you didn't want to do? When was the last time you expressed an opinion you knew would be unpopular? Last time you fought for something you believed in, even knowing you'd make enemies? If you can't answer these questions immediately, it's because you're already dead inside. You're a social zombie, walking through life without purpose, without direction, without courage. And don't come to me with excuses about education or upbringing. Machiavelli was born in an era when expressing wrong opinions meant torture and death. He faced persecution, exile, humiliation, and still he never stopped writing, never stopped thinking, never stopped fighting for his ideas. What's your excuse? That someone might not like you on WhatsApp? How pathetic. Machiavelli would say you're wasting the most precious gift you received, your capacity to choose. Every day you wake up and choose to be mediocre. Every day you choose the comfort of others' approval instead of the greatness you could achieve. Every day you betray your own possibilities. And you know what the most tragic part is? You do this thinking you're being virtuous. You think being a doormat is a quality. You confuse weakness with kindness, cowardice with humility, mediocrity with modesty. Machiavelli would laugh in your face and then feel pity because you don't even realize how you're self-sabotaging. Let's talk about your personal relationships. How many times have you swallowed your opinions to avoid conflict? How many times have you agreed with things you thought were wrong just to keep the peace? How many times have you stopped pursuing your dreams because someone said it wouldn't work? Every time you did that, you died a little inside. And the worst of all is that you think you're being noble. You think you're being mature, balanced, diplomatic. But the truth is, you're just being a well-educated coward. Your relationships are superficial because you never really show yourself. Your friendships are empty because you never allow them to see who you really are. Your romantic relationship is mediocre because you never have the courage to be truly vulnerable. The people around you know exactly what kind of person you are. They know they can count on you not to create problems, to accept anything, to never question anything. And they use this against you. Not out of malice, but because human nature takes advantage of weakness where it finds it. Have you noticed how people talk to you? How they make decisions for you? How they assume you'll agree with everything? This isn't respect. This is disdain disguised as cordiality. They treat you like a child who can't make their own decisions. And the most painful part is that they're right. You really can't make your own decisions. You need everyone's approval to do anything. You need consensus to have an opinion. You need permission to live your own life. Machiavelli taught that in a world where everyone plays to win, whoever refuses to play always loses. And you refuse to play the game of life because you're afraid of getting your hands dirty. You're afraid of making difficult decisions. You're afraid of being held accountable for your actions. So you choose not to act, not to choose, not to truly live. But let me tell you something no one will tell you. Your strategy isn't working. This plan of yours, to be invisible, to not bother anyone, to go through life without making waves, isn't taking you anywhere. You're not earning respect. You're not building meaningful relationships. You're not creating a life worth living. You're just existing. And existing isn't living. Let's examine your professional career. How many times have you failed to apply for a promotion because you didn't want to create problems? How many times have you accepted extra tasks without compensation because it was the right thing to do? How many times have you seen less qualified people pass you by because they had the courage to ask for what they wanted? And you stay there, waiting for them to automatically recognize your good work, waiting for them to see how dedicated you are, how you never complain, how you always accept everything. And while you wait, others are negotiating, demanding, conquering. Machiavelli would say, you're playing the wrong game. You're playing the virtue game in a world that rewards results. You're trying to be the perfect employee in a company that only cares about productivity and profit. You're being naive in a corporate jungle. And the result? You're stagnant. Your career doesn't evolve. Your income doesn't grow. Your responsibilities increase, but your recognition doesn't. You've become the person everyone counts on to solve the problems no one wants to solve, but no one remembers when it's time to distribute rewards. What a pathetic fate for someone with so much potential. Now, let's talk about your dreams. Remember them, those things you used to want when you still had hope. Those projects you abandoned because someone said they were unrealistic. Those passions you buried because they weren't practical. Where are those dreams now? They're molding in the cemetery of your excuses. They're rotting in the drawer of your insecurities. They're dying of thirst in the prison of your fears. And each day that passes, it becomes harder to resurrect them. With each compromise you make with mediocrity, you become more distant from the extraordinary person you could be. Every time you choose safe over meaningful, you betray not just your dreams, but your own soul. Machiavelli risked everything for his ideals. He lost position, lost money, lost social status. He was exiled, humiliated, forgotten by his contemporaries. But he never betrayed his convictions. He never stopped believing in what he believed. And that's why, 500 years later, we're still here, talking about him. You give up on your dreams at the first difficulty. You abandon your projects at the first obstacle. You betray your passions at the first criticism. And then you wonder why your life has no meaning. Why you feel empty, why nothing you do seems to matter. The answer is simple, because you chose not to matter. You chose to be insignificant. You chose invisibility. But here's the reality no one will tell you. Your excessive kindness isn't doing anyone any good. Not you, not the people around you. When you have no opinion of your own, when you don't defend your values, when you don't fight for your goals, you become a burden. People lose respect for you, and eventually lose interest. Do you think you're being useful by always saying yes to everything? Do you think you're being a good person by always putting others first? What an illusion. You're not helping anyone. You're creating dependency. You're teaching people they can use you without consequences. And worse still, you're teaching your children, if you have them, that this is the way to live. You're passing on your cowardice, disguised as virtue. You're creating a new generation of people who think having no backbone is a quality. What a pathetic legacy, Machiavelli would say. You're making the most fundamental mistake of all. You're trying to be perfect in everyone's eyes, and you've ended up becoming invisible in anyone's eyes. No one remembers the guy who never bothered anyone. No one tells stories about the person who always said yes. No one admires those who never took a stand. You want to be remembered. You want to leave a mark. You want your life to have meaning. Then stop trying to please everyone and start defending something. Stop being a reflection of others' expectations and start being an individual with your own will. Mediocrity is a choice. It's not destiny. It's not bad luck. It's not lack of opportunity. It's a conscious choice you make every day. When you decide that being comfortable is more important than being extraordinary, and each day that passes, this choice becomes harder to reverse. You're aging, time is passing, and while you're there waiting for the perfect moment to start truly living, others are building the life of their dreams. Others are taking risks, failing, learning, growing. Others are becoming the people they always wanted to be, and you're still waiting for permission. Permission from whom? From your boss, from your family, from friends, from society, from God. When exactly do you think this permission will arrive? When do you think someone will knock on your door and say, now you can start living the life you always wanted? Never. This permission will never come because no one else can give this permission to you. Only you can give this permission to yourself. And until you do, you'll continue being a spectator of your own existence. You want to know what differentiates people who leave a mark on the world from people who go unnoticed. Courage, the courage to displease, to be misunderstood, to be criticized. The courage to defend your convictions, even when everyone is against you. The courage to pursue your goals, even when the odds seem impossible. Machiavelli had this courage. He wrote truths he knew would be controversial. He developed ideas he knew would be attacked. He took positions he knew would make enemies. And that's why, 500 years later, we're still talking about him. How many people will be talking about you in 500 years, or in 50, or in 5? Probably none. And you know why? Because you chose to be forgettable. You chose to be common. You chose to be just another in the crowd of people who were born, lived and died without leaving any trace. But it doesn't have to be this way. You still have time. You can still choose differently. You can still decide that your life will have meaning, that your actions will have consequences, that your existence will make a difference. The truth is, you have potential for much more than you're demonstrating. Everyone does. But the difference between those who realize this potential and those who die with it buried is simple. Some choose courage, others choose comfort. Some choose excellence, others choose mediocrity. Some choose to live, others choose just to exist. And don't tell me you have no choice, that your circumstances are special, that your situation is different, that you can't change. That's a loser's excuse. Machiavelli saw empires fall and rise again. He saw common men become princes and princes become beggars. The only constant in life is change, and those who adapt prosper. Those who resist perish. Your current circumstances are the result of your past choices. If you don't like your current life, stop complaining and start making different choices. Stop blaming the government, the economy, society, your parents, your boss, your education. Take responsibility for your own existence, because while you're there blaming everyone for your problems, you're wasting energy you could use to solve these problems. While you're victimizing yourself, you're losing opportunities to grow. While you're looking for culprits, you're letting slip the chance to be the solution. Machiavelli would say you're wasting precious time worrying about things you can't control, instead of focusing on things you can. You can't control what people think about you, but you can control your actions. You can't control the opportunities that appear, but you can control how you prepare for them. You can't control the results, but you can control the effort. But you prefer to complain about things you can't control, because it's easier than working on things you can. It's more comfortable to be a victim of circumstances than to be the architect of your own destiny. It's safer to blame the world than to take responsibility for your own life. And while you stay in this victim posture, others are taking control of their lives. Others are making courageous decisions. Others are taking calculated risks. Others are building the future you only dream of having. The question isn't whether you'll face difficulties. You will. The question is whether you'll face them as opportunities for growth or as excuses to give up. Machiavelli faced exile, prison, torture, humiliation, and even so, he never stopped fighting for his ideals. What's your excuse? That your internet is slow, that your boss is annoying, that your family doesn't understand you, that you don't have money, that you don't have time, that you don't have contacts, that you don't have luck. What pathetic excuses for a wasted life. You need to understand one thing. The world doesn't need another nice person who doesn't bother anyone. The world already has millions of those. The world needs people who dare to be different, who dare to question, who dare to build something new. The world needs leaders, not followers. And leadership isn't about position or title. Leadership is about attitude. It's about having the courage to make difficult decisions. It's about having the determination to persist when everyone gives up. It's about having the vision to see possibilities where others see only problems. Do you have these qualities? Are you developing these skills? Are you preparing to lead, or are you content to follow forever? Because if you're not preparing to lead your own life, someone else will lead it for you. And when that happens, you'll discover you spent your whole life living other people's dreams instead of your own. Machiavelli understood that life is war. Not a literal war, but a war of wills, of ideas, of objectives. And in any war, those who don't fight lose. Those who have no strategy are defeated. Those who have no determination are crushed. Are you fighting your war, or are you just watching others fight theirs? Do you have a strategy for your life? Do you have clear objectives? Do you have a plan to reach these objectives? Or are you just improvising, hoping everything will resolve itself, counting on luck to determine your future? If you don't have a plan for your life, you're planning to fail. If you don't know where you're going, any path will do. And when you don't choose your destination, others choose for you. Your mediocre life isn't destiny's fault. It's the fault of your mediocre choices. And the good news is you can start making different choices from now on. Not tomorrow, not on Monday, not next year. Now. Start by questioning everything you accept without thinking. Your beliefs, your habits, your relationships, your objectives. Ask yourself, is this taking me where I want to go? Is this making me the person I want to be? Is this creating the life I want to live? If the answer is no, change. Stop asking permission to live your own life. Stop waiting for someone to give you approval to pursue your dreams. Stop believing you need others' validation to have value. You don't need it. Machiavelli didn't need it. No extraordinary person in history needed it. They understood something you're still learning, that others' approval is a luxury, not a necessity. That self-respect is more important than others' opinion. That living an authentic life is more valuable than living an accepted life. Mediocrity is seductive because it's easy. It doesn't require courage, doesn't require effort, doesn't require sacrifice. You can be mediocre without leaving your comfort zone. But greatness requires all this and more. It requires you to become someone you're not yet. It requires you to do things you haven't done yet. It requires you to think in ways you haven't thought yet. And it's exactly for this reason that most people choose mediocrity, because greatness hurts. Greatness is uncomfortable. Greatness requires you to abandon who you were, to become who you can be. Machiavelli would say you're wasting your life trying to be perfect instead of trying to be effective. Perfection is paralysis. Effectiveness is action. And action, even Imperfect always produces more results than perfect inaction. You stay there, waiting for the perfect moment. Ideal circumstances, the infallible plan. But the truth is, there will never be a perfect moment. Circumstances will never be ideal. The plan will never be infallible. And while you wait for perfection, others are acting with imperfection and getting results. Are you afraid of failing? Great. Fear of failure is a sign you're aiming high enough for failure to be possible. But know that the only real failure is not trying. It's dying, wondering what if. It's reaching the end of life with a list of regrets instead of a list of achievements. Machiavelli failed several times. He was humiliated, rejected, ignored. But each failure made him stronger, wiser, more determined. He understood that failure isn't the opposite of success. It's part of the path to success. Only those who try fail. Only those who have expectations get disappointed. Only those who act regret. And it's better to regret something you did than to regret something you didn't do. It's better to fail trying than to succeed not trying. It's better to be criticized for acting than to be ignored for not acting. The life you're living now is the life you chose. Consciously or not, through your actions or lack of action, you created your current reality. And if you created it, you can recreate it. If you built it, you can rebuild it. If you chose it, you can choose again. But this requires you to stop victimizing yourself and start taking responsibility. Stop complaining about what you don't have and start valuing what you do have. Stop focusing on what went wrong and start planning what can go right. Stop living in the past and start building the future. The past is a lesson, not a prison. The future is a possibility, not a guarantee. The present is an opportunity, not an obligation. And you have the power to choose how to use each of them. Machiavelli lived in an era without the facilities you have today. Without internet, without technology, without the infinite opportunities at your fingertips. And even so, he managed to create a work that transcended his time and reached you. What's your work? What's your legacy? What are you building that will survive you? And don't tell me you're not an artist, that you're not a writer, that you're not creative. Your life is your work of art. Your relationships are your legacy. Your influence on the people around you is what will survive you. The question is, what kind of work are you creating? What kind of legacy are you building? What kind of influence are you exercising? If you died tomorrow, how would people remember you? As the person who always said yes, as someone who never bothered anyone, as a good but forgettable person, or as someone who made a difference, who defended their convictions, who fought for their dreams? The answer to these questions determines whether you'll continue being mediocre or start being extraordinary. And the choice is yours. It always was yours. It always will be yours. Machiavelli knew this. Now you know it too. There's no perfect moment to start truly living. There's no ideal circumstance to pursue greatness. There's no guarantee it will work. But there's an absolute guarantee that if you don't try, it definitely won't work. You can continue being a nice person who pleases everyone and bothers no one. You can continue living a safe, predictable, mediocre life. You can continue being just another in the crowd of people who were born, existed, and died without leaving any mark. Or you can choose to be different. You can choose courage over comfort. You can choose authenticity over approval. You can choose greatness over mediocrity. You can choose to live a life worth being remembered. Machiavelli made this choice. Thousands of people throughout history made this choice, and they all started exactly where you are now, with a decision. A decision to stop accepting less than they deserve. A decision to stop settling for scraps. A decision to stop being a spectator of their own life. This decision isn't easy. It will require sacrifices. It will require you to disappoint some people. It will require you to leave your comfort zone. It will require you to face your fears. It will require you to work harder than you're used to. It will require you to persist when everything seems to be going wrong. But the alternative is worse. The alternative is to continue living a life that isn't yours. It's to continue being someone you're not. It's to continue betraying your own dreams. It's to continue wasting the most precious gift you have, your life. The question that remains is, what decision will you make? Because one thing is certain, you will make a decision. Even if it's the decision not to decide, that's still a decision. Even if it's the decision to continue as you are, that's still a choice. And you'll have to live with the consequences of this choice for the rest of your life. So, what would Machiavelli say about your mediocre life? He would say you have the power to change it. He would say you have all the necessary tools. He would say you have more opportunities than he ever had. And he would say that if you don't use this power, these tools, these opportunities, you have no right to complain about the results. He would say that mediocrity is a choice, not a destiny. That greatness is available to anyone who has enough courage to seek it. That the world is full of people with potential, but empty of people with determination. He would say you can continue being just another in the crowd, or you can choose to stand out. You can continue following, or you can start leading. You can continue existing, or you can start living. Mediocrity is a prison you build for yourself, and you have the key in your hand. The question is, will you use it? Time is passing. While you hear this, precious seconds of your life are slipping away. You can use these seconds to continue in your comfort zone, or you can use them to take the first step toward the extraordinary life you always knew you were capable of living. Machiavelli has been dead for 500 years, but his message to you is more alive than ever. Stop wasting your life trying to please everyone and start living in a way that pleases yourself. Stop being nice and start being respected. Stop being mediocre and start being memorable. Stop apologizing for existing and start demanding respect for your existence. Stop accepting crumbs and start fighting for the banquet. Stop living in the background of your own life and start being the protagonist of your story. Because, in the end, the only person who can save you from a mediocre life is yourself. The only person who can transform your dreams into reality is you. The only person who can make your life worthwhile is you. The choice is yours. It always was. It always will be. And that's what Machiavelli would say about your mediocre life. That it's only mediocre because you chose it to be that way. And that you can choose differently starting now. The question is, will you choose? Or will you continue being just another ghost walking through life, invisible to others and irrelevant to yourself? The answer lies in your next actions, not in your intentions, not in your plans, not in your dreams, in your concrete, real, measurable actions. Because Machiavelli understood something you're still learning. that the world doesn't reward good intentions. The world rewards results. And results come from actions, not promises. They come from decisions, not hesitations. They come from courage, not complacency. You've already spent too much time planning the perfect life. You've already spent too much time dreaming of the ideal moment. You've already spent too much time waiting for circumstances to magically align so you can start truly living. But circumstances will never align. The perfect moment will never come. The perfect life will never materialize by itself, because life isn't something that happens to you, it's something you make happen. And while you're there waiting, others are doing. While you plan, others execute. While you hesitate, others decide. While you dream, others build. You want to know what's the difference between you and the people you admire. They stopped waiting for permission to live their lives. They stopped looking for guarantees before acting. They stopped needing approval to pursue their goals. They understood that life is an experiment, not an exam. That you learn by doing, not by studying. That you grow by trying, not by planning. That you conquer by risking, not by protecting yourself. Machiavelli knew that fortune favors the bold, not the cautious. That opportunities appear for those who are prepared to take advantage of them, not for those who are waiting for them to be perfect. That success comes to those who act with determination, not to those who act with hesitation. And you, are you being bold or cautious? Are you preparing to take advantage of opportunities or waiting for them to be guaranteed? Are you acting with determination or with hesitation? Your answers to these questions determine whether you'll continue living a mediocre life or start building an extraordinary one. Because here's a truth that will change your perspective forever. You don't need to be extraordinary to have an extraordinary life. You just need to do extraordinary things consistently. And extraordinary things are just ordinary things done with excellence. Persistence and courage. Is writing a book extraordinary? No, it's just writing 1 page a day for a few months. Is building a business extraordinary? No, it's just solving problems for other people consistently. Is having an incredible relationship extraordinary? No, it's just choosing to love and respect someone every day, even when it's difficult. Greatness isn't an event, it's a habit. It's not a moment of inspiration. It's a series of correct decisions made consistently over time. It's not talent, it's work. And you have the capacity to work. You have the capacity to be consistent. You have the capacity to make correct decisions. What you don't have is the discipline to do these things when you don't feel like it. The courage to persist when it's difficult. The determination to continue when everyone is doubting. Machiavelli wrote The Prince while he was in exile, without resources, without position, without hope of returning to power. He could have lamented. He could have given up. He could have settled for a common and forgettable life. But he chose to use his adversity as fuel for his greatness. He chose to transform his pain into purpose. He chose to make his fall the springboard for his intellectual immortality. And you, how are you using your adversities? How are you transforming your pains? How are you converting your obstacles into opportunities? Because everyone has adversities, everyone has pains, everyone has obstacles. The difference isn't in what happens to you, but in what you do with what happens to you. You can use your difficulties as excuses or as motivation. You can use your failures as confirmation of your incapacity or as information for your improvement. You can use your limitations as justifications for mediocrity or as challenges for overcoming. The choice is always yours. And this choice determines not just what you achieve, but who you become in the process. Let's talk about an inconvenient truth. You're more worried about what people will think of your success than what they think of your current mediocrity. You're afraid to stand out because that will attract attention. And attention means responsibility. And responsibility means you can no longer hide behind your excuses. When you're mediocre, no one expects anything from you. No one demands results. No one questions your choices. You can continue living a small life without anyone noticing or caring. But when you decide to be extraordinary, that changes. People start paying attention. They start having expectations. They start demanding consistency. And suddenly, you can no longer be lazy, can no longer be irresponsible, can no longer be uncommitted. And that scares you, because it's easier to be a predictable disappointment than a consistent inspiration. It's more comfortable to be ignored for mediocrity than to be observed for excellence. But here's what Machiavelli would tell you. This is exactly the mentality that keeps you prisoner of your own mediocrity. This need to control others' perception, this obsession with others' approval, this fear of being judged. You're wasting tremendous energy trying to control things you can't control. People will think what they want to think, regardless of what you do. They'll judge, they'll criticize, they'll doubt, and you can't do anything about that. What you can do is focus on the only thing you really control: your actions, your decisions, your choices, your efforts, your results. When you stop worrying about what you can't control and start focusing on what you can, something magical happens. You start having real results. You start making measurable progress. You start becoming the person you always wanted to be. And when that happens, others' opinion becomes irrelevant. Not because you stopped caring about people, but because you started caring more about your own integrity, your own values, your own goals. Machiavelli understood that true freedom doesn't come from having what you want, but from wanting what you have. It doesn't come from controlling circumstances, but from controlling your reactions to circumstances. It doesn't come from avoiding problems, but from developing the capacity to solve problems. And you have this capacity. You always had it. The problem is, you never developed it because you always had other people solving your problems for you. You always had excuses not to face your responsibilities. You always had escape mechanisms to avoid the discomfort of growth. But growth is uncomfortable by definition. If it's not hurting, you're not growing. If it's not difficult, you're not challenging yourself. If it's not scary, you're not leaving your comfort zone. And the comfort zone is where dreams go to die. It's where potential goes to rot. It's where greatness goes to be wasted. You've already wasted too much time in your comfort zone. You've already spent too many years avoiding the discomfort necessary for growth. You've already postponed too many transformations out of fear of the temporary pain they would cause. But the temporary pain of growth is always less than the permanent pain of regret. The temporary difficulty of change is always less than the permanent difficulty of stagnation. The temporary fear of uncertainty is always less than the permanent fear of a wasted life. Machiavelli chose temporary pain He chose temporary difficulty. He chose temporary fear. And that's why he was able to create something permanent, something that survived him, something that still influences the world 500 years later. And you, will you continue choosing the permanent pain of regret? Will you continue choosing the permanent difficulty of stagnation? Will you continue choosing the permanent fear of a wasted life? Or will you have the courage to choose the temporary discomfort that leads to permanent greatness? Because that's the choice you have to make. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next year. Now, in this moment. While you're hearing these words, you can turn this off and continue living as you always have. You can return to your comfortable and predictable routine. You can continue being nice, avoiding conflicts, pleasing everyone, and bothering no one. And in 10 years, you'll be exactly where you are today. Maybe a little older, maybe a little more tired, maybe a little more bitter, but essentially the same person, living essentially the same life, with essentially the same regrets. Or you can decide that this stops here, that mediocrity stops here, that the spectator life stops here, that existence without purpose stops here. You can decide that from now on, you'll fight for your dreams as if your life depended on it, because your life really does depend on it. Not your physical survival, but your emotional, mental, spiritual survival. You can decide that from now on, you'll defend your convictions even when it's difficult. You'll express your opinions even when it's unpopular. You'll pursue your goals even when it's scary. You can decide that from now on, you'll stop asking permission to live your own life. You'll stop waiting for approval to pursue your dreams. You'll stop needing guarantees to make important decisions. This decision isn't easy. It will require you to change habits you've had for years. It will require you to face fears you've been avoiding for decades. It will require you to become a person you've never been. But the alternative is unacceptable. The alternative is to continue being a diminished version of yourself. It's to continue betraying your own potential. It's to continue wasting the most precious gift you have, your only life. Machiavelli knew that life is too short to be wasted on mediocrity. That time is too precious to be spent on trivialities. That human potential is too great to be limited by fear. And he was right. Your life is a unique and unrepeatable experiment. You'll never have another chance to live this life, to have these opportunities, to make these choices. What you're doing now is all you'll have. So, what will you do with it? Will you continue wasting it? Will you continue postponing? Will you continue settling for less than you deserve and are capable of? Or will you start living with the intensity, passion, and determination that your life deserves? The answer lies in your next actions, not in your words, not in your intentions, not in your plans, in your actions. And Machiavelli is waiting to see what choice you'll make: mediocrity or greatness, cowardice or courage, conformity or personal revolution. The choice is yours, and it's now.